Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Niner Family Huddle podcast. Today we're talking Robert Saleh, special teams coordinator, Super Bowl matchup, maybe more after this. All gas, no break.
Yeah, baby.
Robert Saleh's back. We talked about it last week. I made the case that it was a bad process, and like Jason said, hey, bad process or not, if the results are good, then who cares? Results are good. Robert Saleh's back. The special teams coordinator, Brant Boyer, is hired, brought over from the Jets. I like that hire. We'll talk about him a little more, but first, let's talk about Bobby Saleh. How excited are you guys to have him back?
I'm unbelievably excited. I can't even put it in words. It's going to be so interesting because I'm always thinking, like, what's next? What's this defense now going to look like? It's going to be much improved. I think it's definitely going to be much improved. I think Saleh as a coach is going to be improved. Like, he was already a really good coordinator. Now he's, like, got all this experience running a whole team. It's like, same with the special teams coordinator. Like, these guys are experienced guys. Like, they could be head coaches on their own. And so it's like, man, we've got a lot of brain power and experience that we just brought into the building, proven success, proven commodities, in Saleh's case on this actual team with these players, although these players are a little bit older, which is where it gets interesting because this defense isn't as talented as it used to be when they had Saleh. So it's going to be much improved, but how good can this defense be? It depends on the draft. It depends on free agency, so on and so forth. But I mean, shoot, we still got Freddie, still got Bosa, still got the pillars of the defense. So happy. Can't even put it into words. Just abundantly happy. I hope he stays for a while. I mean, I don't know how long. I don't know when people are going to want to give him another chance, but I hope he sticks around for as long as possible. And yeah, he's the man. I'm super happy.
Well, he's already interviewing. Sorry, Steven. He's already interviewing for head coaching jobs. I wouldn't be surprised if he's interviewing every offseason. Who knows when he'll get hired, but he'll be interviewing every offseason. That's my guess.
I was just gonna say, hopefully, he at least sticks around long enough to get a ring. I mean, that's all that matters to me. Yeah. I'm pretty happy about it too. I mean, he was my number one choice when we were talking, even before we thought it was real, right? Like even when we were just like weeks ago talking about who were potential candidates, I think we all were hoping that he was going to be the one. It's interesting what you say, Chasen, because I feel like in general the defense isn't as good, like of the era. But if you're comparing to 2019, it's not. But if you're comparing to 2020, when he was still there and still put together a really good defense, I mean, that defense was so injured and there was so many like just kind of hodgepodge fill-in parts that he made that defense good. I feel like he can make this defense good. You know, I mean, their top DB was Verrett that year. Mm-hmm. Their Kerry Hyder led the team in sacks, I think, that year. You know, like I mean, those. I'm not saying those guys are scrubs, but I don't think they've repeated that success. Like that was their best year for both of those guys, and so I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to be able to get the most out of whatever players they have. Honestly, Bosa's probably better than he was when Saleh was there. He had him as a rookie and then he was injured, the next year. So Bosa's in his prime now, so that's got to be an improvement. Fred, I don't know. I mean, Fred's not really human. He's an alien, so I think he's always in his prime. But I am very pleased, and I hope you talked about the process thing. I hope that it is a sign of it was what I was hoping it was, right? Like that they knew that they had him and that they were just trying to keep it quiet, and
That's actually not what I heard.
No, I didn't hear that either. I'm just saying that I'd like to think that they had some assurances or whatever. But yeah, I saw some stuff to the contrary as well. So
What that stuff say?
Well, Matt Mayoko had said that there was some sweaty palms. That's the way he put it in the 49ers front office when Liam Cohen pulled out of the head coaching job for the Jaguars or the Jaguars. And then once Balky got fired and he kind of re-entered it, there was some relief
I
because
yeah.
apparently some of their plan B, C, D options had gotten scooped up. I think it's fair to say that Olbrich was one of them, and there was talk about Dennis Allen, and he got hired. Louis Amaruno got hired in that time span. I don't know if he was one of their options,
Yeah.
but he was. They were definitely linked to Allen and Olbrich, and those guys were gone. So sweaty palms is what Matt Mayoko said. So
Yeah,
process be damned, it worked out.
it would have been probably choosing between Brandon Staley and Gus Bradley, right? If Saleh did get a head coaching
Oh
job.
gosh, yeah, Gus Bradley is kind of that's why Pete Carroll got talked about too, because that's like the Pete Carroll system, and
Mm-hmm.
they were like, well, why not hire the actual guy like Pete Carroll? But I think everyone kind of knows Pete Carroll has no interest in a D coordinator job. Plus, he hasn't been a D coordinator in 30 years. And then Gus Bradley was kind of his underling, but the Colts defense stunk last year. And DeForest Buckner had a quote saying that like it's just a bunch of individuals playing out there. We're not a unit. So not a ringing endorsement from someone who I know we all really like and respect in Buckner.
Do you think that Pete Carroll story got floated out there? Like,
Speculation.
no, it was speculation, sure, but like, I wonder if there was something to it, like get the Raiders to act, like because
Oh,
it was shortly after that was out that then oh, he's going to get the Raiders job, and it became like official. I don't, like, maybe force their hand or something.
I don't think so because if the Raiders, they probably could have just asked Pete like, "Are you considering this?" And he was probably like, "Hell no, this is where I want to be."
Sure.
That would just be my guess. But yeah, I'm super excited to have Salah back too. If they got 2 years out of him, I'd be thrilled. Um, if anything more than that to me is just gravy. I wouldn't be shocked if he was gone after 1 year. It's going to be kind of crazy because the Niners are going to get more comp picks for the same coach when he gets hired as a head coach again, as another minority hire. They're going to get a couple more comp picks. So I heard a couple years ago that the league was kind of upset because the 49ers were getting so many comp picks because they were having people hired from other teams. But that's the rules the NFL put in place. And the Niners put minority candidates in who are good at their job in positions to get promoted and move on, and that like they took advantage of that system. That's so um whoever was upset back then, I'm sure they're going to be upset again when Salah gets hired and the Niners recruit some
It's
more
funny
comp picks.
because it's like it was doing what it was intended to do, but then people found negatives with that.
Yeah, like, well, the 49ers are too good at it. They're getting too many picks. It's like, well, those are the rules. We're just, you know, we're
you,
doing what we do. And
everybody else could do the same thing if they wanted to.
yeah, not our fault. We have a bunch of like excellent minority candidates on our staff that are really good at their job. Um,
Do you
So
guys?
if Mike McDaniel gets fired, come on home. We'll get him a second job and get some more comp picks.
Like you
It ain't
said, I
happening.
don't think he's coming back. But go
No.
ahead.
Come
What were
on,
you chasing?
bring them all back. Let's get the boys back together. Get the band back together. I was gonna say, do you think there'll be any ripple effect with hiring Salah in terms of roster moves? Like, are there any
Oh yeah.
veterans on the Jets? C.J. Mosley gonna come
Javon
up?
Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas. Come on. DJ Reed, bring them all back.
Well, DJ Reed, yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah,
Those other two, no, thank you.
Well, I
I
was kind of
actually,
joking, but
Yeah,
Kinlaw, I would expect no.
yeah.
Solomon Thomas, I wouldn't be surprised if he does come back as like a depth piece.
I mean, I'm surprised Solomon Thomas is even still in the league. I didn't know he was making a difference anywhere. I actually thought Kinlaw would be the intriguing one because it seems like he's found a way to stay healthy and he's still, got that big body that he could put to use. But
He is.
If he, yeah, I'd be. I don't know how much I trust PFF, but I'd be curious to see what the PFF grades were for those guys.
I'm pretty
Um,
sure Kinlaw is like an average pass rusher and one of the worst run defenders in the league.
hmm, I thought
Yeah.
he was
which is funny because he was supposed to kind of be the opposite. He was
right. I
supposed
thought he
to
was
be
better at
a
run D.
dominant run defender.
He gets like pushed out of position just like crazy. I mean,
Well,
I got
as a Niner, he got shoved out of the club all the time, but I feel like he was always dealing with knee issues, so maybe he couldn't quite anchor like he was supposed to, but he always had a trouble keeping his pad level down, and because he's so tall, guys would just forklift him and shove him out of the into the second and third level.
So I think a ripple effect to your question, Jason, that I have no like evidence that I can point to, just a feeling. I feel like Saleh being back makes it more likely that the Niners will keep Dre Greenlaw. I I,
I
I don't
I've
agree.
heard that.
I don't know if that's because Dre might be more likely to stay because oh man, Saleh's back and this can really position me. I've been seeing stuff like I saw PFF projections for contracts, and what how much stock do you put in that stuff? I don't know, but more and more stuff about Greenlaw having to sign like a prove it deal. Like I know we were all talking about, oh, he's going to be too expensive, and all these teams are going to want him, and I have a feeling there's going to be plenty of teams that want him, but I'm wondering if that is a sign, the injury stuff that we've talked about, and if teams are going to be like, yeah, Dre, we want you, but we want you like 2 years 12 million, or 1 year 7 million or something like that, and let's see how you do. So yeah, it'll be real interesting to see what happens there, but I got to think that just the fact that it's a known coach for Dre and Saleh, I would think like all gas no brakes. Who better embodies that than Dre Greenlaw? So we'll see.
He's gonna love Malik Mustafa. They're gonna get along great.
Oh yeah, he's all gas, no break. Yeah, I've been hearing the same thing about Dre. I keep seeing 1 year 6 million floated. I would guess there's a handful of teams out there that are going to offer him something like that, and if it's all relatively even, I'm guessing he would just come back to the Niners. But all it takes is one team to say, "Hey, Dre, we'll give you 3 years, 25 million," and he's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
So hopefully, no one's stupid enough to do that. Like I was thinking about earlier, like if I'm Pete Carroll's Raiders, like bring me Dre Greenlaw. I need a culture setter. I need help on defense. Bring me Dre Greenlaw.
I
This
keep
is not
thinking that's going to
right.
be a fit too. Like yeah, I've thought the same thing that the Raiders would want him.
I just think that Pete and the Raiders are such a weird fit, in my opinion. I know this is a Niner podcast, so I won't go on too
No,
much.
we can talk about it because I have thoughts on it. Go ahead.
It just seems like a weird fit. Like, I don't know. The Raiders are like mean, tough, and Pete just seems like a nice
The
guy.
opposite,
Like,
yeah.
he seems like a sweetheart.
Pete's USC teams could pass as Raider teams, but yeah, his Seahawk teams maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have too in depth of. I do think Pete's a good coach, and I respect him as a coach and as a man. Um, I just, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a weird fit. I think he's gonna be a scapegoat in like 2, 3 years, something like that. They're gonna get him out of town for whatever the next hot commodity is. Yeah.
So I saw a tweet the other day that was really funny. First of all, it said, "Gotta respect Pete Carroll. He does it for the love of the game and the hate of Jim Harbaugh."
Yeah, that's gonna be phenomenal.
I thought that was funny. So here's why I like the hire for the Raiders. He only signed a 3 year deal,
Mm.
and he's obviously old. They just need someone to get that franchise back on track and just be a relatively competitive team. Turn the culture around from a bunch of losers to a bunch of guys who try hard and can win some games. And then 2, 3 years from now, they can draft a young quarterback, give Tom Brady a couple years to identify the next Ben Johnson or whoever, the next Kyle Shanahan if they're lucky, and then you can hire that guy and try to take the next step to be a real contender in one of the toughest divisions going right now. But all Pete Carroll needs to do is turn the franchise around from being a bottom feeder to just being a respectable franchise, and he can do that.
I think I had texted you guys that my feeling on it is like at best the Pete Carroll Raiders are going to be like a first round playoff exit team. I just have that feeling, and that's at best. I,
Mm.
I
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're gonna make the playoffs, but I do think for the points that you made, Ryan, that he will be good in terms of like a source of stability. Kind of be able to build the culture. I think he's great at that stuff. I just don't know how innovative he is in today's game. I'm not saying that he's not, but it seems like he's, kind of set in his ways. He had his time, and we'll see. Maybe he's going to roll out a new scheme. Maybe he's been away working up something. Who knows?
Scheming.
Yeah, he totally could. But I just, like Chasen said, it doesn't seem like a fit to me either. Like it's not like, oh yeah, that's a coach of that type of team. And I just have my doubts that they're going to become true contenders. But if they're looking at him as step one of building in the right direction, it's a great step one.
That's what I mean. It's a 3-year deal. So, and he's obviously in his early 70s now. He's 73 or something. So they're
Right.
not looking at this guy like this is a 10-year plan and we're going to win a Super Bowl with Pete Carroll. It's like, can we just win 7 or 8 games? Maybe even 9 games? Like,
I think Pete will do that for you. I think he'll get them there. Maybe not next season, but I think
They need some talent, yeah, and then maybe.
I
yeah, they
also
need
I
Dre
love
Greenlaws.
I love that Marshawn Lynch was at the press conference and yelled out Raiders.
Yeah, Pete thought that was Mark Davis.
Did he? That's so funny.
Yeah, because he's like, calm down, Mark Davis. That was his comment. And then Marshawn ran into him afterward and like hugged him and he was like, did you hear me yelling at you? And he's like, that was you? I didn't know that was you.
Is Marshawn like a part owner at all? Or I know he's from Oakland and he's like a Raiders guy, but does he own a piece of the team?
No, he's just a fan.
The fan?
Yeah.
Former player fan?
At best, he has like a Frank Gore role, like what Frank Gore has with the Niners.
Yeah, who knows if he even has that? I don't know.
I don't even think he has that. Anyway, Chasen, you mentioned about ripple effects. I've been listening to some people talk about potential Jets players that could come over with Robert Saleh,
Yes.
and there was a couple linebackers that I've heard about that are like really really good players. I should have got the names, but there was one guy who CJ Mosley got hurt, and he came in, and he had like 5 or 6 games this year with over 10 tackles. Some games he had like 16, 17 tackles. They ended up giving him like a team MVP award at the end of the year, and he's kind of like he's like 25, 26 years old. I wish I had the guy's name, but he would be a guy who the 49ers, I mean, with or without Dre Greenlaw, we need some linebacker help. Sauce Gardner. He tweeted like a bunch of fire emojis when Saleh got hired. And I'm like, he's still got a couple years on his rookie deal. Do you flip the 11th pick for Sauce Gardner? No, probably not, but I bet he'd be willing to get the hell out of there. Although I think players respect, what's their new coach's name? Glenn,
Oh, yeah.
the Lions defensive
Aaron
coordinator.
Oh, Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn, yeah.
Yeah. If you're a DB and you want to play for a coach that's a former DB. Like I think that's makes sense. I don't think Sauce is going anywhere. And honestly,
No,
I kind of feel like Sauce is overrated. I mean, he's
I agree,
good,
actually.
but I think he's overrated.
Yeah. I'm
he
more.
got his ass kicked against the Niners in week 1 this year.
Yep.
They pulled him from the game. Do you remember that? He was like getting ran over by
Right.
Debo, and he wasn't tackling well, and they friggin' benched him.
I don't remember that.
So I'll tell you another ripple effect that I think, whether or not it will happen, I think it should happen. To me, having Saleh back settles the debate. You better go D line with that first pick, not O line. I mean, I know I've been beating that drum forever, and I know Chasen's been on the other side, but like I feel like if you're bringing in Robert Saleh and you might only have him for a year or two, but you are obviously saying that we've made him the most highly paid defensive coordinator in the league. We're putting some emphasis on this. We need to get back to our ways of building from the D line and going from there in terms of how we build our team to be competitive. And I feel like if they can get, a stud guy at 11, which I just saw a tweet from somebody today, some draft guy that said like 16 of his top 50 players are D linemen. looking at this draft class, and like that there's so much talent at the Senior Bowl on the defensive line. I'm like, yes, bring it on. Like,
Get
go,
a couple.
yeah, yeah. Do I swear I would not be mad if they did first and second round D line, because I feel like that's going to be way more impactful. Go sign an O lineman in free agency. Go get somebody that you know fits what you want rather than having to take a chance. And as we've seen, you can get O linemen and develop them in the mid round. So go D line first and second, go O line third and fourth, and then do whatever do your thing from there.
I starkly disagree.
I know.
I respect your opinion, and I do see the points in it. But I feel like if anything, well, two things. One, I feel like defensive linemen are more plentiful. You can sign decent ones for cheap versus, especially like a tackle, is super hard to get like a quality tackle. That's why I want to spend the top pick on the top available tackle. That doesn't guarantee they're going to be any good. They could stink and it could totally suck. But like, I would much rather take the swing at a tackle when we have like a 90-year-old left tackle and one of the worst right tackles in the league when we're about to pay our quarterback 60 million. And I get the Saleh thing, like let's get back to our ways, but at the same time, I think Saleh is going to be able to help fill some of the gaps and put players in better positions that we're just going to play better defense altogether. That's not saying we don't need interior help, because I do agree it's pretty high up there. It's very high up there in terms of needs. But I would much rather still go offensive tackle and then maybe look to trade, maybe look to sign, maybe look in the second round, third round, whatever, to try and get one of those other guys. But man, we're about to pay Brock Purdy a lot of money, and our offensive line, what is it, like bottom 5 in the league, I want to say? Definitely bottom 10.
With
Yeah,
Trent Williams on the sideline, yeah, it's awful.
I
So
I see your point, and I think it's a good conversation. I feel like you can scheme around an O line more than you can scheme around a D line. D line, you either got it or
Kyle
you don't.
Shanahan definitely agrees with you.
Yeah, I know he does. I know he does. But I think that's true. I mean, I feel like it's not just the Niners. I feel like there's other teams that kind of do a patchwork O line, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, they're okay. They look. Oh, that team's good. They didn't have studs. There are also teams that are really good that have emphasized O line, like
Chiefs, Eagles.
the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Lions, right? There's those teams out there as well. So the Niners under Harbaugh, like I get it. That is a recipe for success. If you invest in your O line, you're gonna be good. But I think you can work around a mediocre O line better than you can work around a mediocre D line. And that's when you have a pick that's close to the top 10. I don't want to miss on an O lineman. I want a guarantee, and I feel like D linemen are more guaranteed. And I don't necessarily agree that they're easier to just plug and play and find them, because the Niners did that last year and it didn't work
Yeah.
out. They got
Yeah.
Yeah.
guys that had resumes, and I don't know that a single one of them made a big impact. I think it's kind of the same for both there. Like you're going to hit on some and you're going to miss on others. But like I think about, I know you can't like use this for every example, but like Laken Tomlinson, people thought he was like on his way to being a bust before he came to the Niners. Gets in the right scheme, they know how to use him, and all of a sudden he goes and signs this huge contract after he's done with the Niners. I feel like
And
you're
he
more,
stinks.
yeah, and I don't think, and then yeah, he's not good again, right? So I
He
feel
went to
like
the Jets with Saleh and he wasn't good.
right, because Saleh didn't have the offensive,
Shanahan.
personnel that the Niners have. So, anyways, I mean, I'm sure there's guys that know how to use D linemen and could coach them up or scheme them up to make them look better than they are. But, anyways, I'm not going to be upset if they end up drafting a tackle with the 11th pick. I'm not going to be like, oh man, you guys just totally blew it. I'm out on the season, and nothing like that, right? I just feel like you want the quickest path, and you have this window, assuming that the window's still open. You want the quickest path to being back to Super Bowl contention. You go get some studs on the D line right now, and you're going to be there. O line, it's you might be developing them for a couple of years, and then some of the core that you're relying on right now to be in that window might be washed or moved on.
Yeah, it's funny. I agree with both of you. Like, there's the offensive line, especially a tackle, like Chasen said. Our left tackle is a Hall of Famer, but we don't know how much time he's got left, and he misses games every year. And our right tackle is bottom 8, in the league at best. So if and there's a tackle from Texas and there's a tackle from LSU that's getting a lot of attention right now. There's like 3 or 4 tackles that are probably top 15, top 20 ish, and a couple of them have been mocked to the Niners. And I've also heard that the defensive line, specifically defensive tackle in this draft, is really really deep. So I wouldn't be mad if the Niners took one at 11 and another one in like the third or fourth, and sprinkled some O linemen throughout. If they draft one of these top tackles at 11, I'm not mad at that. We'll definitely get more into the draft as we get closer to it. Honestly, I'm thinking like trade back and just get more draft picks. They need more players on this team. Trade back to 15, 16. I've been hearing Larry Krueger. He's talking about how the Niners need to replicate their 1986 draft where they traded back from like, I'll use this year's draft as an example. They're at 11. They traded back to like 15. Then they traded back to 22. Then they traded back to like 29. They traded back like 3 or 4 times in a row before they ever made their first pick. Drafted a whole bunch of guys that ended up being really good. And then they won like the Super Bowl in what, 88,
88,
89,
99, yeah.
almost 90 again. And they catapulted themselves to being one of the best teams, in the league and one of the best teams of all time. So he's been saying how they need to have like a 12 to 15 man draft class, and they can do it with 11 because they can move back and recoup some picks. So
Don't they already have like 10 or 11 picks right now?
I think they have at least 10. Maybe I saw that they were projected to have 12 with a couple comp picks, but I keep seeing the number 10. So
Yeah, I
right now
mean,
it's 10.
a big part of the argument, like of why I would buy the argument of drafting an offensive tackle, I think Chasen made some really good points. I'm hoping that the Niners aren't drafting this high again for a long time. so,
Right.
so like if that's the case, then yeah, get the tackle, get the more premium position while you're up here. But if you do trade back, I would almost want them to trade back for future firsts. So you're getting somebody else's first rather than getting, more picks later in this draft, especially if they already have 10 or 11 picks, because I don't know that there's going to be 10 or 11 spots on the roster. Maybe there is, but I
I
think,
think
I
there will
think,
be.
you think so? I mean, I feel like there's not that many free agents that they're going to lose, but like you said, we can go through that stuff later.
Yeah. I mean, either way, they just need a ton of young talent. And I mean, if someone wanted to trade up from 20 to 11 and give me your first round pick next year, like, I'm not saying no to that. I would
Absolutely.
definitely be have multiple first round picks next year. That'd be sweet. Um, so yeah, I just think they need to hit defensive tackle, offensive tackle, whatever. Just hit.
Well, it's funny because I almost feel the opposite. Like you're saying stockpile picks. I almost wonder, hey, you've already got 10 or 11, possibly 12. See if you can trade up, get rid of some of those picks and try to get 2 premium guys. Like keep 11 and see if you can get in the 20s, and then maybe you do go O lineman at 11. And within this deep D line class, you get somebody in like the mid to late 20s. I don't know if that's possible or not, but I feel like, damn, let's go.
You know
Like,
what we should do as we get closer to the draft? We'll do some like mock drafts on here, and we'll do it live, and you can like trade up and trade back and stuff, and we'll kind of see how it shakes out.
I'm trading up for sure. I'm trading up to like 4 and drafting that guy out of Michigan everyone talks about.
yeah.
Mason Graham.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a switch up from your stance. I think he's the best defensive tackle prospect in this draft. He's Justin Smith-esque.
I wonder if the quarterbacks are going to go 1-2 or if this is going to be a year where we see other positions. I have a feeling it's going to be other positions.
Yeah. Um, the edge rusher from Penn State.
Abdul
It,
Carter, is that his that?
Carter.
I'm hearing people think that he's worthy of the number one pick, especially in this weak quarterback class. I just hope that either at least two, if not three teams are dumb enough to draft a quarterback in the top 10. And if not, I'm hoping one of these guys like Cam Ward or Shador falls to 11. And there's a team who's like, oh my gosh, I did not expect that guy to be there. I'm going to trade up and go get that guy. And they give the Niners a haul.
John Lynch, take all my picks. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. You can have my first round pick next year or something. And like the Steelers, the Steelers are drafting in the early 20s probably. And
Yeah.
they give us our first next year and they come up and get
Steelers,
Cam Ward.
I don't think the Steelers would do that. I think they're too smart.
No, they're too smart.
There are teams that would, but not the Steelers.
Yeah. Um, Brant Boyer, special teams coordinator. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this dude. He's just a special teams coordinator, but from what I've heard, um, he's really good. And this Jets special teams last year, DVOA. I meant to look that up. What does DVOA mean? I always see those rankings, and do you know?
Yeah. Gosh, and of course it's something about value over. Gosh, DVO. I know I know it, and I just can't think of it right now. But
Well, it's supposed to take in a lot of different stuff. Whatever. The Jets were number 2 in the league last year as far as their special teams DVOA ranking, so that's good. Maybe the most impressive thing about this guy was that he's been the Jets special teams coordinator for 9 years, which means multiple head coaches have gotten fired and come in and been like, "Yeah, I like you. You're good. You can stay." So that's a positive sign. And his first his first coaching job was with the Browns for 1 year. His second coaching job, he spent a couple years in Indianapolis coaching the Colts special teams, and he worked with Adam Vinatieri and Pat McAfee, and they were both all pros when he was with them. And Pat McAfee was on his show recently, just heaping praise on this guy. So it sounds like the 49ers got a really good special teams coordinator.
I didn't realize he's a former player until McAfee said what he said about him. He's like, this guy, he was old school. He played in the CTE era. He was a wedge buster.
The wedge buster. Yeah,
He kind of looks like he's that style of guy.
yeah, he does.
DVOA, defense adjusted value over average.
Okay, and apparently that means something. I don't know. I'm not a football analyst.
Yeah, I like it just because of the success that he's had. I mean, Chasen, I think, said it when he first was making his comments. 2 proven commodities coming in. I couldn't tell you a thing about him. I don't pay attention to the Jets and didn't follow his career. I didn't know he was a former player.
Never heard of him until a week ago.
Right, but when you look at his resume, it's damn impressive. So, from that standpoint, I like it. Yeah, bring it on. And the fact that people that know the sport and know special teams are out there saying this is really good, I love it.
Hell yeah.
I like it too. The only thing that makes me feel funky about it is like Schneider also had such an impressive resume.
That's true. He was really good in Seattle.
Yeah, so it's weird. And then he was really bad, or at least our special teams was really bad. So I hope this is kind of showing Kyle is repenting a little bit, or trying to turn over a new leaf in his philosophy towards special teams and just don't lose the game, and bringing in a guy that will actually do some creative stuff to win games or to make impact plays. And so it makes me hopeful. Just like both Saleh and Boyer are just like so much experience and pedigree and impressive resume, and they seem like they're made of the right stuff, like culture wise. And so it makes me hopeful that Kyle is kind of approaching special teams differently. He's bringing in guys that can just straight up probably run the whole Niners organization on their own. And so he's going to be able to focus on other areas or whatever. Because during Wilkes, Kyle was like, no, do this. No, do this. It's like with Saleh, now he's going to be like, Saleh, you do everything. So
yeah, same with Sorensen.
Yeah. So I'm super hopeful, and obviously I'm irrationally optimistic, so I'll find the positive in everything. But impressive resume, And yeah, I'm glad to have him.
You know what's funny is we've talked about, and I think it's like a well-known fact, like Kyle's stance, right, on special teams. What's funny is if you look at the track record, the Niners actually invest in special teams, and
Really?
I wonder if the two things are related. If it's like Kyle's like, look, I just don't want you to mess it up. I don't want to have to spend a lot of time on it. So we'll actually use resources to get good special teamers, and you just don't mess it up. And if like the fact that that hasn't worked out is like, okay, I actually need to emphasize this more. I need to bring in this guy. Like Schneider, I know had a good resume too. I don't know if he's a former special teamer in the NFL. He was, but like it seems like this signals that you're bringing in somebody that you're expecting to make a difference, make an impact. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just funny to me because didn't Mitch get drafted like mid round? Mitch
Fourth,
Wishnowsky. So third round kicker, fourth round punter, signing free agents like George Odom, because of his
Oren
special team
Burks,
prowess. Oren Burke.
Flanagan Fowles they kept around.
The fact that they gave their long snapper a second contract, even in that, like it seems like you could just replace those guys, like they're almost anonymous, right? So you could always just get guys on rookie deals if you wanted to. So it's like they invest, and it's like, okay, we're throwing money at it because we expect it to work, but we don't want to have to spend a lot of time or energy on it. And so I'm wondering if that's kind of shifting a little bit. I hope it is. It seems like it.
It seems like it, and I think Kyle obviously he knows and trusts Saleh, and I'm sure Saleh recommended this guy,
Yeah.
obviously, and like Jason said, both these guys have a lot of pedigree, and so I think what Kyle likes is that he doesn't have to like listen in on defensive meetings, which he was apparently doing with Wilkes, and I'm sure he was doing with Sorensen. He was listening to Sorensen call plays to make sure he liked what he was calling and wanted to know what it sounded like. And now he can just be like, Rob, defense is yours. Just go do what you do, and I'm gonna worry about this other stuff. And Brant Boyer, I think, is kind of the same thing. Like you go do your thing on special teams. And by the way, don't you dare call a fake. We don't do fake punts around here, so don't even try that shit.
I want him to call a fake. Mitch,
Just
prove he
don't
can
fumble
do
the punt. That's all.
it. Yeah,
I
Mitch,
know.
Mitch, Mitch can do it.
I'm
Draw it
down.
up. Let him do it.
Apparently, the Jets were like one of the best special teams units when it comes to like scoring touchdowns. Like they ran some kicks back, they were blocking stuff. So hopefully, you can bring some of that to the Niners. They did have one blocked field goal return for a touchdown. That was Diamador Lenore's touchdown earlier this year against the Cardinals. Amazing that the Niners special teams is so bad, and it was so bad this year. In the one game where the special teams made the best play of the season, blocked a kick, scored a touchdown, and they still managed to lose that game. Those are the games you have to win.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. All right, let's move past the coaches.
Well, one question I wanted to ask you
Go
guys,
ahead.
and back to Saleh. I know that you guys have differing opinions on Brandon Staley, but what do you think about the fact that like the reports that I saw, he had the option of keeping Staley on the staff, like it was Saleh's decision, and Saleh was like, "Nah, I'm gonna, uh,
I'm good.
yeah, I'm gonna do my thing, and he can go elsewhere." What are your guys' thoughts on that? Like, is that a addition by subtraction? Is that just Saleh not wanting there to be any conflicting loyalty or anything? Like, what do you, or is it just he's not a good coach and Saleh knows it and got rid of him? I don't know.
I didn't know that, but I don't know. I don't know about addition by subtraction, but I do agree that it's like, I mean, it's Salah's defense. So like bring in the guys you want, you trust, build out your coaching staff. So I don't really have a problem with it. I do think Brandon Staley's a good coach. I've obviously said that a bunch of times, but like, yeah, I mean, if the philosophies don't line up, whatever, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, Salah's the man. So whoever he wants to bring in, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I didn't hear that report either. I just heard that Staley was not going to be back. Staley he came up under Vic Fangio. He's a Vic Fangio disciple, so he does have a different philosophy than Saleh and what the Niners want to run with their 4-3 wide nine. So Saleh's probably like respect, but good day.
I think you're probably right that it wasn't like, nah, this guy's bad. I want him gone.
That guy stinks.
Yeah, yeah.
I would be curious to see if someone hires him,
I'm curious to see that
where
too.
he
I'm
ends up.
curious who like Saleh brings on his staff, his defensive.
I won't be surprised if Staley ends up back with McVay. That's where he had the most success.
I could see
Yeah,
that.
they do still have their defensive coordinator, so he would have to kind of take a similar role to what he had with the Niners
Yeah,
last year.
he could be an advisor. Yeah, I mean, who knows?
And the Saints, I think the Saints still have not hired a head coach. So
They're
there could be an open defensive coordinator spot there as well. Who knows?